Bill Jasper thinks the federal government is too intrusive into your daily lives. Well, so do I. But here to talk to us about it, Bill Jasper is also president of the John Birch Society and senior editor at the New American. Thank you, Bill, for coming on.
My pleasure, John. Thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure to have you. So I watched a 60 Minutes segment some years ago, and it really talked about how the federal government is involved in virtually every facet of our lives. From the moment we wake up and brush our teeth, they have approved the toothpaste, to the moment that we start to eat breakfast, they've certified that the eggs are okay to eat. When we get into our car, they've approved of the catalytic converter and the safety belts and those things that explode when you hit something. What do you call those? The airbags. And it just goes on from there. I guess, could you make an argument that, well, while that's true, that we're much safer today than we were 20 years ago without them?
No, precisely the opposite. The federal government has intruded, has usurped powers that it was never given in the Constitution, and we have allowed it for decades. It began really almost right after the founding of the country, because that is the nature of government. Government is not an inanimate object. It is a system that is peopled with people, and people always want more power. Certain people always want more power. Those who gravitate into government often do it with a good intention. They want to be of service, some of them. Others just simply want the perks that come with the office, whether it's the prestige, the power, or the pay. But even those who go in with good intentions, there is the expression, the tyranny of good intentions. That is, they think that I'm going to do good, and in order to do good, in order to protect people, to save people, I'm going to have to accrue more powers, because our Constitution, it was created to, as far as possible, limit those kinds of accruals of power, of the centralization and the concentration of powers. So the founding fathers set up a government of a limited republic, not a democracy, a limited republic with checks and balances. We learn about that sometimes in our civics, that we have a republic and that we have checks and balances. And so we're told the main checks and balances are legislative, executive, and judicial, dividing the various powers of government up into the three branches. But there's another important branch that is almost never discussed in our civics and in our political science classes, and that is that we have a compound republic. That's what James Madison referred to it as multiple times, and the other authors of the Federalist Papers, who were really the architects of and propagandists, in a good sense, for our constitutional republic. They said that we have a compound republic in that we have the federal republic, but it is composed of state republics, and each of those states are guaranteed in the Constitution to have a republican form of government. So they also divide up the powers into legislative, executive, and judicial powers. Then they went further and they said the powers delegated to the federal government by the states are enumerated, and they are few. So they are few, and they don't have that much power. They're primarily geared toward foreign affairs and those things which affect the whole nation. The vast majority of powers are to be left to, as the 10th Amendment says to, or the Ninth Amendment says to the states. So all things regarding criminal law and civil law that normally were matters for the states to take care of. In the last 6-7 decades, particularly since the New Deal of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, we've had this enormous usurpation by the federal government of things that affect all of our daily lives that they were never intended to have, and which we have allowed them thus far to take. And so it's incumbent on us as citizens and for our state representatives to take back those powers. And we can get into that. We have our program called MASA, playing off the MAGA trope, MASA, Make America States Again, which is working with state legislators all across the country to nullify illegal, unconstitutional federal laws and to push back against these continuous federal usurpations.
So are you aware of the movement to call a constitutional convention? I think they call it a convention of states.
The John Birch Society has been the primary organization opposing the Constitutional Convention, whether it's billed as a con or a conference of states, the COS. And this is a very troubling area of debate. And unfortunately, in this particular case, we are finding that our main opposition here are people we usually are linking arms with, whether it's on they're considered conservatives, Republicans who are, and independents who are usually with us on opposing gun control, abortion. They're pro-family, pro-life, pro-private property, et cetera.
Why are you opposed to the Convention of States?
Yeah. So did you ask why are we?
Yeah.
For the past 60 years, globalists, insiders, Council on Foreign Relations, and leftists have been proposing a new constitution. And I believe that those who are promoting the COS or other con avenues to a constitutional convention do not realize, or some of them they may be actually working with those who want to overturn our Constitution and bring about a whole new government. Because our central argument is that a constitutional convention cannot be limited. A constitutional convention is a law unto itself. And so once you start the convention, we are very fortunate that the first constitutional convention, which was not supposed to overthrow the Articles of Confederation and come up with a new government, some people think that it was harmful to even have opened that up. I don't ascribe to that. We don't. We think that this was a fortuitous thing, that we had the right people in place who did give us a limited constitutional republic when they throughout the Articles of Confederation. Illegally, they weren't empowered to do that when they went there, but they felt strongly enough that the Articles of Confederation were inadequate and were going to be the death knell for the American colonies, at that time, the American states, and that they needed a stronger overarching central government.
Well, we really, our Constitution calls for us to live in a republic, but there are democratic elements of that.
Right. We have certain democratic features in that we don't put every issue up to a vote in a referendum.
That's
right. A lot of people want us to move in that direction. And that's one of the things that would surely come up in a constitutional convention, because there are many people today, even going back, you remember Ross Perot when he was running for president, he was a technocrat. He was a conservative on many things, but he was a technocrat. He believed that with technology at that time, and that was before we had all the personal computer usage that we do now and all of the supercomputers and internet and whatnot. He argued at that time that we should have essentially a digital democracy where people would vote on everything. Founding fathers, I believe, were very wise in realizing that no, they denounced democracy all the time. They said, look at all of history. Democracies have ever been as short in their lives as they have been violent in their deaths. That's what Madison said. And he listed all the various democracies and how demagogues take them over. So we have a limited democratic feature in our government where we elect our representatives, and then they speak for us and vote for us in the state legislatures and in the Congress. And so this whole idea of democracy, which we hear even many conservatives all the time, well, in our democracy, and many Republican politicians constantly refer to us as a democracy, and we're not. And we need to really emphasize that with all our fellow citizens, that the real means to remedy what we're seeing happen all around us is for citizens to take back control of their state legislatures and of their state government and their congressmen. So part of our Make America States Again program is we've done a couple of the people that I mentioned, Christian Gomez and Peter Rakowski and Ty Bodden. They have put together a scorecard for all of our state legislators all across the country. I mean, it's a huge undertaking, but they go through all the legislation every year in every state legislature, and we give a scorecard on them, which now you can see online. You can print out, you can hand out to people. You can see how, on their votes, how did they actually vote. Most people don't even know who their U.S. senators are by name. And most Americans, polls show, don't know who their congressman is. And even a higher percentage don't know who their state senators or assemblymen or representatives are, or even who their governor is. And if they do know, the vast majority of Americans don't know how they vote. They know, okay, I like what he or she says at election time, when they're on the stump, when they're at town hall meetings. But it's, as we point out all the time, it's one thing to throw out rhetoric. We look at the record. And so we provided for all members of Congress, the House and the Senate, all 535 of them, and then all the thousands of state legislators. We have their voting scores on how they actually vote. And you can go online and look at these. You can download PDFs if you want to pass them out or send them out by email and print them out. And you can also, very importantly, we have put together a very powerful program on our website at jbs.org, or you can get to it through thenewamerican.com. I'm a senior editor there, have been a correspondent and editor there since the magazine started in 1985. And you can go there. We have a map of the country. Just click on your state and put in your zip code, and it'll tell you who your state legislators are and it'll give you the legislation. There's a lot of important legislation right now on trying to end transgender propaganda in the schools, on abortion, on gun control, on taxes. And you can look at the legislation, and if it's upcoming legislation, we have email alerts to people. You can it'll give you a sample letter to your, or text to your representative, and you can edit it or change it, do it all in your own words. And with just a couple of minutes, you can press it. And you can have your state senator, your state assemblyman or representative. You can send them a text or a video, just like we're doing now. You can do a video, say, hey, Representative so-and-so, I'd like you to vote for or against this piece of legislation, or thank you for standing up for our rights of the Second Amendment last week, etc. And that's how, it's very easy every 4 years for people to put a bumper sticker on their car or to put a yard sign out. And that's all well and good. You should try to promote those people who you think are good, but that's not enough. It's not enough even just to vote. That's just the beginning. That's the minimum that we have to do as Americans.
All right. So where do we find this good information if someone wants to track their representatives? How do we find it?
At jbs.org for the John Birch Society, jbs.org. And then there are several drop-down menus there that you can pull down, and maybe you'll be able to throw that up there on the screen for people. And we have our Make America States Again, and MASA, and it gives a map there, and you just simply click on the map. There's another way to get to your federal officials, see how your congressmen and senators. If you go to thenewamerican.com, and then on the menu ribbon at the top, very prominent there, is the Freedom Index. And you click on that, and it'll give you the U.S. Congress, and you simply put in the search bar there the name of your congressman if you know it, or if you don't know it, just put in your state, and it'll bring that up for you.
Well, those sound like great tools. The newamerican.com.
Very important tools as we're going into the elections here. We have the primaries ongoing right now. Began a couple of months ago in March in several of the states, and now in my state coming up here in May. A lot of primaries in May, and of course in primaries you have people who are candidates who are not incumbents or haven't served, so they may not have a record. But if they're a state, oftentimes, like for Congress, members of Congress usually come up most often through the state legislature. And so if you have somebody running for Congress in your area who has served in the state legislature, we have their record up there too. So,
and that's at jbf.org, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, those are two good sources, jbf.org and newamerican.com.
It's the New American. So you have to have that in there or it'll take you to a different site.
thenewamerican.com. Okay, very good. Well, Bill Jasper, thanks for coming on The Truth with us today. He is the president of the John Birch Society, and I think he would prefer we have less government. That's what it sounds to me. And
that is our motto: less government, more responsibility, and with God's help, a better world.
I like it. Thank you, and have a great rest of your weekend.
Thank you, John.